So it sounds like, you've done a great job of optimizing and figuring out, where you could take from and where is not audible with the 4 bits and all that. And so I have to imagine, okay, he's trying to upmix 2-channel. What information is there in that original track to tell you, what to put in the heights? So I have some guesses. I have my own guesses about what kind of information you have. Because, like, for example, like I've used Isotope RX to remove reverb in the room. And so I thought it was kind of interesting because, you can have something where it has a bunch of echoes and it can kind of extract out the dry signal from the wet signal, the reverb and all that. So I was just thinking about it. I'm like, oh, that's information there. How long is that? So I'm just wondering if you're doing something like that.
What is the secret sauce? Is what
you have to tell me a little bit. I know you can't say all of it.
He's pulling it, Wilfred. Come on.
Look, the way I figure
something.
The way I figure is if I have to guess, then when people have to guess, and if they don't really know how it's working, then
what people aren't
they might not believe that it works. They might not believe it. Just like
didn't I share with you a document how the codec works? Let's say the Auro-Matic works.
Joe wasn't listening.
You sent me a lot of stuff.
I think you did.
You probably did, but a lot of them are like, oh, man.
Yeah, I mean,
like homework assignments.
I got this new.
In fact, guys, let's say there are like in total 54 different, let's say, parameters. Yeah,
correct.
Which are in real time. Yeah, going. Let's say when a signal comes in. Yeah. Those 54 parameters decide on how, let's say, everything is going to be spread. Mm-hmm. It takes into account, of course, let's say the way that the system works, is always respecting the artistic intent in such a way, that if the original has, let's say, a kind of a normal room reverb, like in a jazz club, the Auro-Matic brings you in all this kind of thing, that kind of same acoustical experience. If it is like if you're like in a church and you have the only 2-channel, you feel like you are in that church. It translates the acoustical environment of the original. Yeah. And there are like many aspects into account. For instance, the lead vocal, you will hear the lead vocal still coming from the front. Yeah. And people said, oh wow, how can you just take all these objects and just decide where to place them? Yeah. It does not work in that way that it's going to isolate all these objects and then decides where it goes through. Yeah, right. It works in a kind of different way. Yeah, and we are working on kind of some. Let's say we have some psychoacoustic. Let's say tricks is not the right word here, but let's say technologies. Yeah, that we use here to let's say to bring that naturally immersive sound. I think one of the amazing things what we achieved is just take a mono track and do it over Auro-Matic and compare it with whatever kind of other technology. In other technologies, you will get about phasing issues, and in our technology, it still sounds very natural. There's no phasing issues, and these are the kind of all extra elements that we put on the table. It's not by coincidence that I started this development together with Ralph Kessler in 2006 already, early 2006, and we worked 7 years before we came with it to the market in the first AV receiver ever in 2014. Then we came to the market with it, And the reason was, in the beginning, it sounded fantastic only in a specific genre of music, or like not on movies and things. And we had always to add more parameters and more things. And at a certain moment, it became a too heavy algorithm. Then it down again to bring it easy in consumer devices. So it's not by coincidence it took us so many years to develop something like this, and there was a lot of knowledge involved as well. Let's say and already experience that Ralph and myself were dealing it, to make something like that happen.
Yeah, so it was getting very heavy, with all those parameters. Next thing you could be like, you know what? You only need 16 bits. We need that extra 8.
We need more. We need more bits.
Joking. More. So you can't. So there's 54. How many of those 54 are you able to talk about? Because I know in the paper it talks about some of the stuff that you're saying that you're not getting any comb filtering by the way you're doing some of the stuff. So, I guess I'm kind of curious, like,
Let me put.
Can you tell us like 53
I
of them?
think what we can do is, I think it would be better than that we do a separate section or a separate thing about Auro-Matic, and I think Ralph Kessler should be involved then. Yeah.
Ah, all right.
Yeah. As an engineer, yeah, he is. Let's say, he can decide easier than myself, perhaps, to know what, let's say, what is right to describe here and where our, let's say, because a part of this technology is, of course, patented, protected,
Yeah.
a part not, and things like that. So we have to be very, very careful what we can disclose here. Yeah. But I think it would be nice, and I think it would be correct as well to have him involved, because he's major part of, let's say, of this development, which I started with him in 2006. So I would suggest we do that in the next session. Is that okay?
Sounds good. And what happens if you come up with a 55th? What if you're like, you know what, this one parameter? Then what do? Can you change? Can you change the way that everything works? How does that work?
That's the point. You have to think very well before you're going to launch a project or like this. Yeah, the same with a codec. Yeah, you see, once you have a codec out in the market, then the moment it's in there, it's not easy to let's say, to change it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why it took me a few years as well. The Auro-Codec principle was already developed in early 2006. Yeah, in fact, already in 2005. Yeah, but then we started to develop it, and it took us as well 3 to 4 years before we are sure enough this is now fixed. Yeah, and you see the competitors as well before they're going to do something. I know that due to our success in the cinema market, then our main competitor Dolby came very fast with a solution as well, and even for them it's not easy. And I think that was bringing them in difficulties, because they developed Atmos, in fact, in the beginning only for the cinema industry, because they could never imagine that people were going to install like 15 speakers or like 10 or more than 10 speakers at home. So, and that's the reason, the moment when they designed that, afterwards they had to come with solutions to bring it to a consumer farmer.